Stress. It's something we all face, and it's something that actually takes a bit of skill and a bit of understanding to navigate. I'd love to walk you through it. I've been dealing with it, as most of you have, all my life, all of your life. The reason that we go through stress is generally that there is a disconnect between the events that are occurring in our world and our ability to do something with it here and now. It's this inability to deal with something that is happening. We don't have the resources, we don't have the skill, we don't have the time, whatever it is. And that inability to deal with the problem creates stress. If you had, let's take financial stress. If you had financial resources to just pay for everything, you wouldn't have financial stress. If you have relationship stress, then if you had the perfect relationship, there wouldn't be any stress. So why do we have to deal with stress? Well, I believe it is the number one character building block in every human being. We are built with a level of deficiencies within our system and within our person. And the job of life is to allow us to become the best version of ourselves. That means overcoming obstacles. Overcoming stress is a big one of those. So how do you practically overcome stress? Well, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but I have been through a lot of stress over my number of years. I'll let you guess how old I am later. In that time, what I have discovered for myself is I didn't used to handle stress very well, and now I do much better. So based on that, I'm going to give you what has worked for me. One of the very first things, and especially from a male's perspective, is the fear of being not enough, inadequate, the fear of how we look publicly, and also the fear of physical harm. They are the main things that subconsciously we stress about. That is, somebody's going to say something negative about me, somebody's going to think negatively about me, or somebody is going to do something because they perceive me in a negative light, such as bash my head in. So, the first way to overcome stress is to take the time element that you're looking at, the period of time, and bring that back to a 24-hour period. And ask yourself the question, am I going to die in the next 24 hours? If the answer is no, then in that 24 hours, you can now be proactive instead of reactive. You can feel bad and feel stressed. Allow that to sort of run through and go, why am I stressed? I've got this going on, that's happening, this isn't working well, all these things are piling up against me. Right, now that I've got that out and I've thought through it, am I going to die in the next 24 hours? No, okay. What could I do that would give me the best chance of things moving in a positive way? What could I do in the next 24 hours that would help that? Now, for me, answering that question, sometimes it is, there are actually some people from a business and sales perspective, there are actually some clients that I could call. There are some good clients I've had in the past that I could reach out to on a phone call, ask for a referral, ask for a written reference or a referral that we could put maybe onto the website. I could probably make some social media posts, some things that I could put out there for people to view that could create some more engagement if I'm trying to build the business. In my personal life, I may feel bad because, my wife has said something nasty to me, or I've perceived it as nasty. My kid said something to me that was hurtful, whatever the case is. I can choose to let all of that go and say, what would create a better relationship? Well, I could instigate saying something nice. I could do something nice even though I don't feel they necessarily deserve it, but I could do something positive. So what you can do is take your 24-hour period and find as many positive things in there that you could do. And that may be making some phone calls, creating social media posts on the work front, instigating a positive interaction in personal relationships. If there is tension between you and somebody else, call them. Do something to ease that tension. This is a quote that came, or not a quote, but a discussion that came from a mentor of mine. And he was asked, what is it that successful, super successful people don't do that everybody else does? His answer was, super successful people don't delay having difficult conversations. And that has been it's been a huge game changer for me. I'll give you a practical example of what I walked through. I had a particular contractor we were working with. We took on the project. They did some work for us. And then when we got paid from that particular contract, a bunch of other bills got paid and not that particular contractor. And then we had a hole in the work schedule, which meant I had about a 4-week period where no money came in. And I owed this person money. Now, I was petrified to call them. I didn't want to be embarrassed. I didn't want to have the shame of having to say, I haven't got your money. I just didn't want it. It was stressful. It was freaking me out. I didn't want to have to deal with it. Then I heard that discussion around how you should deal with people who, successful people basically don't delay having difficult conversations. And I went, okay, let me go and have a difficult conversation. And I contacted the person and they said, look, yes, we would like that to be hurry up and paid, but just get it to us as quick as you can. That was it. The fear I had was that conversation was going to be way worse. The stress that I built up was all in my imagination on what it was going to be. That is where most stress comes from. It's the not knowing. So the quicker you can know, the better and the less stress you're going to have. So whatever situation you have that is stressful, you need to get to knowing the outcome as fast as possible. Now, that may, and it does include, finding out the worst case scenario is real. Okay, at least now you know. What is going to cause stress is that in-between gap of, are they going to call? Are they going to be angry at me? Are they upset at me? I think they're upset at me. I think they hate me. I think my world's going to go to pieces. Call them, speak to them, square it off, say, hey, look, I'm just concerned about that last conversation we had. I'm feeling really bad about it. Whatever it is, whatever conversation you need to have, 90% of your stress will be cleared up via a conversation. It's a very difficult thing to do the first few times because it's new and there is a lot of fear attached to having uncomfortable conversations. The more you have, the more, the better you will get at it. Once you've done it enough, it will just become how you deal with difficult things and your level of stress will go through the floor. It's the only thing that's allowed me to get to where I am in business now. Stress hasn't gone away. Problems haven't gone away. My ability to deal with those stresses and problems has matured greatly, and therefore it doesn't drive me into this concern and fear and worry and all these negative emotions. I'm able to process it, move on really quickly. And when I say really quickly, things that used to take me a week to digest and I would be scared to pick the phone up, things were going wrong, or I didn't want to speak to somebody for a week or two, I can process in somewhere between 15 minutes to an hour now. So I can still feel bad. I can still have that emotional response. I've learnt to not make a decision in that space. I've learnt to be able to just sit and digest it for a minute, consider my best case, worst case outcomes, realize I need to take some kind of action to at least figure out what's going on, even if it is the worst case scenario. And then as soon as I realize that's what I need to do, I immediately go and do it. And the quicker you do it, it's like ripping a Band-Aid off. The quicker you do it, the quicker it's done. Then you can move on with your life. And that stress doesn't have that big black dark cloud over you of what might happen. So that would be my tips. Hopefully that's helpful to you. When you feel stressed, identify where the stress is coming from. If it's a situation or a person, then there is generally something proactive you can do to figure out what's actually going on. Figuring it out solves 90% of the stress, and then from there you can decide what other positive actions you can do that are going to have some forward momentum and some positive outcomes to help better the situation. So I hope that helps. Leave comments below if you have had stress, if you've got things you're stressed or worried about, or other questions you might have, be happy to answer them. And yeah, thanks for the original question, because that's what prompted this video, was how do I deal with stress? Well, there's the answer. All right, take care.